Hey, welcome to this week's talk. Man, we have been diving in to the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual sides of ourselves. Why? Because a few months ago, I had you write down, what would you want people to say about you and about your impact when your life is all said and done? At your funeral, what do you want people to have said about you? And for all of us, when we actually do that exercise and we write down and we think about, what kind of person do I really want to be? Well, you will find that the person that you want to be is not exactly the person you are today. Why? Because there are things that trip you up. There are ideas, thoughts, and images that you have that have been developed over a long period of time that are not correct. There are emotions that are triggered from past traumas, experiences, and things that have happened to you that are stored in your brain that trigger and come out and cause you to act and do things. Your flesh, your body, it causes you to do things that you don't want to do. And then your social interactions, peer pressure, things like that. All of these things drive us to do things that we don't really want to do. And so in order for us to live the life and become the people that we really truly want, which, by the way, leads to a life of love, peace, joy, and hope, we have to dive in and dig into these places. And these places, like we started off this series, these are the unseen things. You can't see your thoughts. You can't see your emotions. This is the spiritual side of life that we are dealing with. So the reason why we're digging in to some of these emotional things is because we want to become a better person. We want to become more like the person that we wrote down a few months ago. So let's continue on, because last week we were talking about what triggers you, right? And man, so many of you really answered that question with a lot of vulnerability. And I appreciate it personally, because I got to know so many of you better. And I know you guys in your groups have gotten to know each other better. You know, if we want to love one another more deeply, we got to know one another. We got to get out the things that we maybe hide and hold back from other people. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. Like, for example, for a lot of men don't really like to acknowledge their emotions oftentimes. And so they like to just, kind of ignore them or stuff them down. Well, that doesn't work, because emotions are natural. We had a question last week, are emotions good or bad? Emotions are good, right? Why? Because here's the thing. What's the primary purpose of emotions? Why did God give us emotions? To move us into action, to spur our will, right, toward a certain thing, a certain person, a certain cause, a certain movement. Without your emotions, you would do nothing. People said, yeah, if I didn't have any emotions, I would just be a robot. Everything would just be, A equals B equals C. Well, it's not a great life at all. You would not actually do anything. I was thinking about some things, like between my wife and I, right? When she asks me what I want to eat, she doesn't say, what do you think you want to eat? She usually says, hey, what kind of food are you feeling tonight? What do you feel like eating? Or if she's planning something, she says, hey, how do you feel about going out with the Smiths or whatever? Depending on the Smiths and my interactions with them, I might have this reaction like this, or like, oh, they're really fun. You understand? Those aren't real people. We're just using the name Smith. When she asks me about doing a project around the house and she knows I've had a long week, she'll say, hey, how do you feel about doing a few projects today, right? She's engaging my emotions because she knows my emotions are going to drive my action. So if that's true and my emotions are going to spur me towards action, don't you think we should spend some time accessing and understanding and doing some reflection on our emotions and how they come out, in order for us to then improve our actions to become the person that we want to become? That's where this idea comes in of emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about that a little bit, because if we are not aware of our emotions and we are not aware of the emotions of others, we're not going to be that great of a friend. We're not going to be able to love really, really well. And so, unlike IQ, which is measured in like mental intelligence, you can't really do a whole lot to improve your IQ. You either have a high IQ or a low IQ. Well, that's not the same when it comes to emotional IQ. This is an area of your life where you can actually improve and become a higher IQ person emotionally, which will drive your actions and cause you to become that person that really people will want to be around. I mean, let's face it. How many of you have had people in your life that we would consider emotionally toxic? You have to constantly be thinking about every single word out of your mouth because so-and-so is going to get triggered. We don't want to, and so everything goes around the worst person, the most toxic person, and so we just can't say too much. And what kind of life is that? Well, that person is unwilling to address the things, the scars, the emotional things, the baggage that they have to do that. So our emotions drive our actions. Think about this. When you feel really good, when you feel good, your life flows. When you feel bad, your life becomes stagnant. It becomes stale. What is this really all about? Well, I'm going to go back again. Got to continue to remind you, go back to the beginning, because the most important basic need that you and I have as human beings is to know that we matter, to know that we have value, that we have worth, worthiness. The meaning of the word worship is the condition of being worthy. Well, it's the deepest need for every one of our souls. And so everything that I do really is based on if I feel valued or something will bring me value, then I move towards it. If I feel devalued or something's going to take away from my value, I move away from it. The reason why you get triggered is because you feel like someone devalued you. Let that sink in. Somehow your worth was damaged by somebody, and so you got offended and you feel the need to defend your value, to defend yourself. Listen, I wrote this down. This is like a little quip, a little sentence. Maybe you should write this down or put it in your notebook or put it in your little notes on your phone. My desire to be valued supersedes my willingness to value others. When you truly understand and you can dive in and look inward at, well, what is my value? What do I currently feel my value is? Then we can start to get somewhere. Now, if you're one of these people that you're not quite there, like you don't really have an understanding yet of your relationship with God, you're not even sure what you believe in that, I just want to give you a little bit of like a help there. If you don't believe that you were created by a creator and you were just some random blob that somehow morphed out of a swamp to become this complex human being, well, then where are you going to derive your value from? Because then you're just going to derive your value from people and experiences. And as we all know, from people and experiences, we're going to get led to disappointment and betrayal and all these different things. But when you understand that you were created with detail and precision and value from a creator, from God, and that's truly where your value comes from. In fact, our entire country is based on the idea that our freedom doesn't come from individuals, it comes from God because of our value to him. Well, when you can really, truly open up your mind and your heart to receive that and to understand that, it starts to shift where you get your value from. I'm not now sucking it out of everybody that's around me. I'm finding it from the one who knit me together in my mother's womb. I'll leave it there for right now. So emotions. Well, is there a list of emotions? Like, can we just kind of like find all the emotions and then just put them in a box? No, there really is no comprehensive full list of emotions. Now, Felicia and I years ago, we believe in sitting down with counselors at certain times during your life to help you unpack some things. In marriages, you can get stuck in certain areas. Your communication isn't working. And so we have sat down over the years with with different counselors to kind of help us get unstuck. And years ago, we were with this one gentleman, and he was really starting to get us to think about our thoughts and our emotions. And I remember one session, he handed us this piece of paper that had this wheel of emotions on it. And for me, this was all new. I'm like, a wheel of emotions, like, this is too much. But when I really took a scientific approach to it, and I started really looking at these values on this wheel, and I'm gonna show you this value wheel, I started realizing oh my gosh, there's way more going on in my heart than I was really aware of. And if I can actually start to understand some of these things, where it's coming from, and then how to regulate them, man, I can become a better version of myself. These emotions that are so many different emotions usually incline towards good emotions and what we consider bad emotions, those that kind of build up and those that kind of tear things down. The inclination of these emotions lead really to certain thoughts and actions. I talked about this a little bit last week. That's why you've maybe heard the phrase, "Don't let a bitter root take hold in your heart." That comes from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15. What is that? Well, a bitter root is when you're holding on to unforgiveness for somebody, and that bitter root just tends to fester in your heart. And so you have negative thoughts about that person. And well, eventually that's going to come out, and that's going to be a major relational wound in your life. I heard somebody say this one time: holding on to those bitter roots of unforgiveness and anger and frustration is kind of like continually drinking poison and hope the other person's going to die. Like, you're just poisoning your own well. And so you have to deal with these things. So this idea of emotional intelligence, how can we improve our emotional intelligence? Well, this is part of restoring our souls emotionally, because wrong feeling ends up being just like wrong thinking. The level by which you can be aware of and manage your own emotions, as well as discern and understand the emotions of others around you. So the measurement of that scientifically is what we refer to as emotional intelligence. There's 4 parts of this emotional intelligence that I want to go through with you, right? Part number 1 is your own self-awareness, recognizing your own emotions and how they affect your behavior. Most of us never really think about it or do it. We just live. We just kind of, we know people that do this all the time. Well, that's been us at times in our life. Well, how aware are you of your own emotions? That's measurement number 1 in emotional intelligence. Number 2, self-control. I read some scripture verses from Proverbs last week about self-control. How well can you regulate or manage your emotions? We also talked last week about co-regulators, meaning a spouse or a friend or a family member that can walk with us in this journey, that can help us co-regulate our emotions. Because there are times where your emotions just overwhelm you. Well, you can have this person that you trust, that you love, come alongside of you and go, "Hey, let me come alongside of you. Let me give you a hug. Let me walk you through this. Let me talk you through this," so you can have better self-control and not let your emotions make you do an action that you're going to regret later. So that's number 2. Number 3 is this idea of empathy. How well can you understand and be in tune with the emotions of other people? How well can you kind of get into somebody else's shoes, their point of view? That's called empathy. And empathy is an important thing for us if we want to have healthy relationships with other people. That's number 3. Number 4 is called social skills. How well can you relate to others personally with healthy communication and cultivate influential and meaningful relationships in your own life? This social skills means when you go out, when you go and make new friends, or even with the friends you have, how well can you communicate and relate to them personally? What's interesting about this is, the world today, really, there's a lot of talk about Jesus, but people don't really understand Jesus and his relationship and all that. But if you look at the life of Jesus, he had the most high intelligence IQ of anybody that ever walked the earth. He was very much in tune with his own emotions. He was very much in tune with others, and he related really, really well. Now, here's the thing about emotions and feelings. Remember, we talked about feelings are the physical response to the emotions that are going on within us. Feelings are very easy to manipulate. That's the problem with feelings. And these emotions that we feel oftentimes are not really based on fact or truth. They're really based on past experiences. Remember how I shared they're stored in the amygdala in your brain, and then they come out, they get triggered? When my wife says something that I view as very disrespectful, my emotions come up with a thought that she doesn't love me. But that's not true. But this is what's happening physiologically inside of my brain. Why are emotions easy to manipulate? Because people like to be right about their ideas, and they have emotions that are attached to these ideas. So generally, people seek out confirmation to support the ideas that they already have. If you want to look at this, because you're like, well, why are we talking about this as Christians? And well, because you can go back into the Bible and you can look at all these stories historically of all these people that let their emotions lead them astray. How about the story of Samson? His emotions get away from him, and he goes against God, and his life ends up in destruction. David ends up letting lust really grow, and emotionally he doesn't control, he doesn't regulate that, and he ends up making a huge mistake. What about the life of Moses? He kills an Egyptian man out of the emotions that rise up within him. I can go on. Jonah, Judas, Peter, Thomas, King Saul, Abraham and Sarah, Esau, Joseph's brothers. The Bible is full of stories of people whose emotions they did not get under God's guidance, and it led them to terrible things in their life. Now, conversely, you can think of stories in the Bible where people use their emotions to make good decisions, to do good things. Mary's acceptance of God's plan when the Holy Spirit comes upon her. Joseph's decision not to blast Mary when he found out she was pregnant, yet they hadn't had relations yet. Moses at the Red Sea, as he's at the Red Sea and he's looking back, and the Pharaoh and his army is coming at him. He doesn't let his emotions, the people are getting all freaked out, their emotions are going wild, but Moses consults God and then acts accordingly. Joseph, who was thrown in a well by his brothers, left for dead, becomes the Pharaoh's right-hand man, ruling the nation. And when during a famine, his brothers end up before him, and Joseph does not react with negative emotions. He reacts with positive emotions. He has compassion over his brothers, and he loves them and takes care of them. Queen Esther didn't let fear stop her from acting in order to save her people. Then ultimately, if you think about it, right, Jesus chose real love over his own life, over his own safety. He didn't let disappointment and anger rule his actions. He gave up his life so that we could have new life. This manipulation of feelings that happen all the times really is found today in politics. Man, just pay attention to a political rally or political speeches. Really, it's all emotions. It's all trying to manipulate your emotions. And unfortunately, the same is happening today in churches. Churches lead with feeling and emotion because it's way easier to change your mood than it is to change your mind. Advertisements do this all the time. What are they selling? They're selling a feeling. Unfortunately, unhealthy relationships, many people abuse people emotionally with all kinds of different things in order to manipulate their behavior to get what they want. I'm gonna pause for today. I think I've given you a lot because I really want to make sure you have an opportunity to discuss and talk about these things. The goal here is to apply these things to our life, to get out the things and to share with others that are in a safe place, the things that we would like to improve about ourselves so that we can go out there and have better, loving relationships with other people, that we can be a light to other people. That's what this restoration of our soul is really all about. And ultimately, that's what leads to this deep settledness, this taking order the chaos we sometimes feel and bringing order to it so that we can operate as the best version of ourselves. Enjoy your time discussing these questions, and you're loved and blessed, and hope to see you soon.